Dear participants, I'd like to welcome you all. The subject of this panel is the steps that we need to take towards our goal by 2023. We have panelists here whom I'd like to introduce. One of our panelists is representing Emrah. Ahmet Bey delivered his military service in Eskişehir, responsible for electricity. In 1983 he started working for a hydroelectric power plant as an engineer. In 1995 he was responsible as a manager of a hydroelectric power plant. In 2002 he was appointed by Emrah as an energy specialist. In 2004 he was appointed at the office head for electricity affairs. In 2006 he was appointed as the acting head of the electricity TWEC authority. In 2007 he was appointed as the head of the office for electricity tracking and governing office. Hakan Bey is representing Siemens here. He is the director responsible for wind. He is a graduate of Middle East Technical University from the Department of Electrical Engineering in 1999. He made his MA in Boğaziçi University on business management. During his MA he started working as an assistant project manager, after which he worked in Ukraine for 3.5 years, responsible for natural gas, holding the title of field engineer. He worked with the responsibility of commissioning power plants in Turkey. In 2005 he started working for Siemens as a project manager. He is married and father of 2 children. İbrahim Erdem. He is work development manager working for Enerjisa. Since 2006 he's had various positions within Enerjisa. He has been active in the power industry for more than 12 years, both in Turkey and abroad. Since the beginning of his career, he has worked at different stages of power plants, and for Enerjisa he has carried out various efforts, including commissioning of the projects, development of them, and project management. He is a graduate of Boğaziçi University from the Department of Mechanical Engineering. He made his MA in America, again on the field of mechanical engineering. Later on he finished an executive MBA program at Sabancı University. He is now continuing his doctorate study at Istanbul Technical University. Emre Volkan, I would like to give the microphone to him so that he could introduce himself to you. In 2004 I graduated from Middle East Technical University, the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I finished my MA in the same department in 2007. Afterwards I worked for various energy companies, including Gamma Enerji. For more than a year now I've been working for Borusan ENBW as wind engineering manager. The subject of the panel is the steps we need to take in order to achieve our target of 2,000 megawatts by 2023. I'd like to listen to our first panelist now and receive the opinions of the investors. The word is yours, Ahmet Bey. Actually, the seating should be more differently. This is a different congress. At least I can now talk. Actually, I was more interested in asking questions to you. I didn't prepare any presentations. The last Saturday, the new law, the new license regulation was published, which brought with it new developments. In the past, there was a chaotic environment in terms of licensing procedures, but firstly, I'd like to answer your questions. Let's just make it a mutual learning environment now. As part of our strategic plan, our target is to achieve a capacity of 20,000 megawatts by 2023. We should first have a look at the previous periods during which we were still discussing as to how we could build natural gas plants, not even wind power plants. In the past, at times when I attempted to create some projects for some power plants, I was always told by my seniors that no one was interested in any loan engagement. It was one of the biggest plants of Turkey with a capacity of 500 megawatts, but still we had to lose 3 years in the process. The General Directorate for Hydraulic Works was already installing a capacity of 300 megawatts. I mean, it had already done that, but the tender had still not started for the assembly. Its electromechanical structure was about to be commissioned as well. So throughout all these procedures, we had to lose 5 years. However, in the end, there is a power plant with a capacity of 500 megawatts. It's contributing to the current account deficit of Turkey, and it's benefiting from domestic production. It was a very simple project. Now our total installed capacity is 62,000 megawatts, and you as wind power plants are really contributing to that. The state also has played a major role here because the government has been in power for a long time, which is providing a stability, but in the past there were quite a lot of fluctuations. The private sector was avoiding investing in the electricity market before 2004 because it thought that it wasn't in a position to compete with the public sector. In 2008, an economic crisis, a global economic crisis, exploded all around the world. We are lucky that we have achieved a capacity of 62,000 megawatts. Approximately 25,000 megawatts of this figure belongs to the private sector. This represents an investment amount of $25 billion. I really wanted to remind you of the past experiences and examples. It's impossible for the public sector to invest in the amount of $35 billion. Even if the state allocates some amount of funds for these kinds of projects, it's impossible. Just look at the examples of some dams which were constructed in 15 years by the state. There are equivalents of these kinds of dams, and sometimes they are commissioned as well. One of them has been commissioned with a capacity of 300 megawatts. In the past, there was a very conservative approach towards wind energy, especially when it comes to the opinions for interconnection. Wind technologies weren't this sophisticated back then. There was only one technology being implemented by the state in the past, and they had a problem in terms of compliance with the standards and interconnection. Wind turbine manufacturers later on started developing solutions. I was accompanying our dear chair in Germany last weekend. They all climbed up to the top of a turbine with a capacity of 8 megawatts there, and the wind was so fast that the tower was somehow shaking. Only then I noticed that they all wanted to climb down again. But anyway, it's the late hours of the day, that's why I'm joking. What should we do in order to achieve our targets by 2023? TEA shares a lot of roles here and responsibilities. In the past they were quite conservative as well. We started interconnecting with this system with a capacity of 1,000 megawatts. When we first opened a wind power plant, we were unable to interconnect with a higher capacity. All our negotiations led to higher capacities. The capacity they announced for the last time is 12,000 megawatts. The situation today is that it's impossible to achieve 12,000 megawatts at the moment. For example, we still haven't been able to commission some of the turbines in Cheshme region. Both the public industry and the private sector were not ready for these kinds of figures. Investors really suffered a lot. We suffered as well because we every day received complaints and listened to the problems of our investors. Just because we didn't in the past ask for some progress reports, we were investigated, by the way. Yesterday we filed our defense document, petition. If we had been so strict in the past, even 10,000 megawatts wouldn't have been installed today. Our authority first decided to allow a period of 27 months for applications. It wasn't only our mistake. The legislation at the time provided for a prioritization effort. And the idea was to give permit to those who committed to complete the project earlier. The periods requested were probably approximately 12 months, but the period we mostly gave was 27 months. We found out cases during which they were unable to complete their projects by the 16th month. And once we cancelled these projects and permits, the court ordered against us. Now we have overcome all these problems. Now can we actually achieve this target by 2023? According to the new regulation, every year we should receive a wind application. There are also some laws which give some support to us. In Cheshme region we follow the policy. The region had a capacity of 460 megawatts and the applications equal to 700 megawatts. We distributed the capacity of 460 megawatts across the stakeholders or those interested in the area, especially the hydroelectric power plants and wind power plants were really far from the connection points. They created miracles in this issue by establishing catchment stations. This is how we increased the capacities. We even had to establish lines which transmitted the energy generated to the grid. Çanakkale region receives a lot of winds, but we cannot transmit it. Gökçeada has a high wind potential. However, provincial authorities there completely object against establishment of wind power plants there. And please let me know if I exceed my time. Don't make me talk this much. There are some problems that investors will have to experience. In Istanbul, we found out that some areas are protected areas which we can't access. We licensed almost 12,000 megawatts of capacity, but due to some constraints, only 7,000 megawatts have license. So we are starting up a marathon by licensing quite a lot of projects. By 2016 or 17, we are planning to license 20,000 megawatts already. This is how we can also filter through those who fail in the marathon. Sometimes investigators research your area and tell you that you should have used idle capacity as well. Working for the state means that you will always be punished, but we are willing to face all these challenges. For us, the biggest importance belongs to economic development through commissioning of our renewable energy resources. Let's make a calculation. Knowing that the population of Turkey will reach 100 million people by 2040, the required energy per person will be 6,000 kilowatts per hour. This means that we will need an energy generation of 600 billion kilowatt hours. Even though we commission all the renewable energy capacities in Turkey, including hydraulic power, solar power, wind power, and etc., hypothetically, we wouldn't even be able to reach 2 or 3,000 billion kilowatts. I'm trying to say that it's impossible to completely eliminate our dependency on foreign resources unless we find natural gas or alternative resources. I wish we could only benefit from natural gas for heating purposes. We can even say that we completely eliminated use of natural gas even for heating purposes, and say that we installed nuclear capacity as well. And let's just use electricity for heating purposes. For example, Norway does it, but Norway is of course a richer country. Of course, it would be amazing for us to use our natural resources for all the energy needs throughout the country. However, we can still choose in between these energy resources so that we find a more budget-friendly one. We can do it through a feasibility study. For us to achieve the target for 2023, we should license at least 20,000 megawatts in 2016 or 2017. I'm willing to answer any of your questions, but I'm concluding right now. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your sincere words. Now the floor belongs to İbrahim Bey. I'd like to welcome you all. I'm a little bit ill. Sorry for my voice. I'll show you a couple of slides and tell you what we think about what we can do for the targets, and I'll share my recommendations, my company's recommendations with you. Our company development of wind industry, how do we look ahead, and what can we do to achieve our targets? These will be my topics that I'll mention. The hall is quite full here. I'm kind of competing with other panelists, and thank you very much for attending here. There was a slight change in the structure of our organization. For 5 years, since 2007, our structure had a partnership structure. In April, the shares of our foreign partner, were acquired by a German company. Now the partnership belongs to Sabancı Holding and E.ON. Our company employs almost 10,000 people, has 9 million clients, and operates within 3 distribution regions with a capacity of almost 2,200 megawatts. What do? We manufacture, we distribute, and trade electricity and natural gas in these regions and to our clients. What did we do for wind? We installed 3 wind power plants. One is the biggest one in Turkey. The wind power plant of a general manager will definitely surpass the capacity of our plant in a very near future. But then we will surpass them as well with a capacity increase of 30 megawatts. So we will continue our competition. Currently, we rank the fourth with a installed capacity of over 200 megawatts. We will increase the capacities of these plants by 50 megawatts. Enerjisa aims to achieve 1,000 megawatts by 2020. We would like to play a major role in the target of 20,000 megawatts as Enerjisa. Why do we invest in wind? Our shareholders are both quite environmentally friendly and sensitive people. They are especially interested in investing in renewables. Our 2015 target is 5,000 megawatts. Investments will continue in renewables. We believe in the huge potential of Turkey. It's even higher than 20,000 megawatts. That's why we believe in the necessity of investments. We believe that political targets are realistic, but they should be supported. Without these targets and support, nothing can be achieved. The most important issue is that our dependency on foreign resources should be decreased at least. That's why renewables will have a major role. We have been active in wind for the last 6 years. In the past, what we did for the wind cannot even be counted because there we were dealing with 20 or 30 megawatts only. But now the figures from the last years show that we achieved a level of 400-500 megawatts in Turkey. The installed capacity is expected to achieve 600 megawatts. Is this speed enough though? Will we really achieve our targets with this speed? Let me first evaluate the general structure in Turkey before answering this question. Turkey now has an installed capacity of 11,300 megawatts. This figure also includes the licenses recently given. If we commission 2,800 megawatts by the end of that year, we will achieve an installed capacity of 4,800 megawatts. If we evaluate the pending project, the remaining ones, the majority of those won't be implemented. This is how we believe. There are some licensed projects with a very limited potential for wind, so we think that some of them will also be cancelled. And we also think that there will be a capacity of 1,000 and they won't be able to finish their application procedures due to environmental impact reports and so on. In general, our estimate is that almost 4,000 megawatt worth of capacity, even though they are licensed, won't be implemented. If we imagine that the remaining 3,100 megawatts are implemented, we foresee that the licensed stock of Turkey will be limited to 7,300 megawatts. In the end, we will have to invest in and work towards almost 17,000 megawatts capacity in order to reach the target. What kind of a future awaits us if we continue with that speed? If we continue with a capacity increase of 500 megawatts each year, we could reach our target by the end of 2048, 25 years after 2023. If we can move at a speed of 1,000 megawatts each year, we can reach the target in 2030. Everyone is aware of these facts. I'm just trying to show the facts and figures. We need to accelerate our efforts. The conclusion is that the target is not really realistic, even though it's supported by the government. In order to reach the target, there should be some changes in the way how we do business. We should also change the way how we operate and work, including the legislation, the permission procedures, and project development processes. So the way we do business should be changed by the investors, regulators, grid operators governing the electricity grid, politicians, and other stakeholders. Let me also conclude. What should we definitely do as investors instead of having to work at the last minute? We need to really work on our projects. We need to carefully measure the national reaction, and we really need to get to know our fields, making sure that no obstacles will arise. Unfortunately, we lack a digital database which helps us investigate the area where we plan to install a power plant. We don't have a digital database that shows us the transmission lines and the existing conditions. But we should take on a role as investors and work on our projects properly. Quality measures would help us understand the realistic figures. According to our estimations, a 4,000 megawatts capacity won't be implemented, and these licensed projects should be cancelled. The new law and accompanying regulation will really change a lot of things in this regard. A 6-month period may sound short, but the projects without a potential for implementation will be eliminated thanks to these requirements. Some projects may really be damaged, unfortunately, but we also believe that EMRA will take necessary measures accordingly. So the new regulation will also touch upon and should also touch upon the sub-aspects of the situation for further improvement. Again, about 20,000 megawatts. More licenses should be issued because some projects are actually doable. Unfortunately, not all the projects will translate into investments. However, more licenses should be issued. Transmission infrastructure should definitely be further improved. There are some pending projects, as mentioned in Cheshme, for example. We really need to support these investments for completion. A smart project, a smart price mechanism also deserves some mention. We shouldn't always focus on asking increased prices. Domestic contribution can be increased up to 10 years instead of 5. Some investors may be given some more privileges if they complete some projects within the estimated period. Different approaches can be implemented. What's more important is the approach of the Directorate of Forestry, which actually creates bureaucratic problems in front of some projects. It also leads to predictability. It leads to unpredictability, and an authority which in the past didn't ask for any opinions are now referred to for some opinions through involvement, maybe unnecessary involvement in the procedure. A coordinated way of operating bureaucracy is needed. EMRA is working towards that, but we need to take it even further. Last but not least, tender processes and the tender mechanism are the biggest hurdles in this industry. Payment per kilowatt hour is changing right now. Once you develop a project and apply for a license, imagine that you won't need to spend any money. This might really be a big advantage. However, in order to make sure that only realistic investors and only those who are really willing to invest should be more prioritized, so procedures may be adjusted accordingly. For us, Turkey is among the rapidly emerging countries for wind industry. That's why our stakeholders embarked upon this industry in Turkey. We hope the political support and the bureaucratic support continues at that level. We are dedicated to continuing our interest and commitment to wind. Related policies should be developed and broadened to facilitate all the procedures and hurdles in front of investors. And in the long term, we really want to create a lucrative investment environment. Thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you very much for being realistic about the projects which can't be implemented, and for sharing with us the necessity of more investment. Lack of a digital database means some problems, and thank you very much for also highlighting this issue. Emre Bey has the floor right now. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't have a presentation either. Ibrahim Bey shared a lot of things with us from the perspective of an investor. I can only add a few words. When I first heard the target for 2023, I first said to myself, I just asked myself who actually achieved such a target. America, the States, China and India look like they are achieving something under current conditions. When we look at Europe, Germany and Spain look like they really achieved something. I would like to analyze Germany and Spain further. Since 2010, both of these countries had a capacity of 1,500 megawatts of installed capacity since 2000. After 2009, Germany also started offshore activities, but the majority still belongs to onshore activities. Also in Spain, an additional capacity of 1,500 or 2,000 megawatts continued since 2000 in Spain. Our current condition is 500 megawatts of installed capacity that comes up each year. Minimum installed capacity in Germany in 2010 was 1,500 megawatts, and the maximum installed capacity took place in 2002 as 3,500 megawatts. These figures include offshore activities as well, but they are comparably higher than our current situation. Spain is struck by economic crisis at the moment. However, in 2000 they had a minimum installed capacity of 900 megawatts and the maximum installed capacity was 3,500 in 2007. Okay, they are struck by economic crisis, however the number for 2012 is 1,100 megawatts. These figures should urge us to take more steps. The annual fluctuations seen in these countries were always in the range of 1,000 and 3,000. There is not a regular increase, but there is a jump. We need to look into the reasons for these kinds of jumps too. There are many reasons for this jump. The current investment mechanism has helped us achieve an installed capacity of 500-600 megawatts per year. We need to do something to increase this figure. It's not only up to us, some mechanisms should also help us. For example, supportive mechanisms should be increased, or the fields that we already installed should be improved. By 2023, it doesn't look really possible for us to achieve the goal. Moreover, we are at a good position as the wind industry. We have a good potential. However, we always follow other examples. Instead of developing and stepping out, we tend to follow other examples. I'm wondering why we are not pioneering. We can't imagine ourselves as pioneers. Look at China. They are doing more different things in China. We only manufacture a turbine, for example. Maybe some of our investors are really pursuing some long-term goals. However, I think projects can be more meaningful and doable if we focus on these kinds of issues. Exchange of information within the industry is also quite important. If we look at the written project which aims to track and predict the wind patterns, we can see that it's a big advantage, and this project can benefit to the stakeholders involved in this industry. Removing the uncertainties within the industry would also attract investors, because the existence of certainty would definitely be an attractive factor in terms of predictability of the market. I think uncertainties within the existing projects or already operating projects could also be eliminated in a way to help the upcoming projects. That was all. Thank you. The presentation was quite precise, and now I'm giving the floor to the representative of Siemens. I didn't prepare a presentation either. I'm representing the manufacturers here and representing the Turkish Wind Energy Association as a member of the board. Instead of a presentation, I'd like to show you the report that we drew up as the Turkish Wind Energy Association. It dealt with the steps that we could take towards the 2023 target. For this study, we gathered as stakeholders, and we really significantly worked on the report, and we actually published it as a booklet. The outlook of last year was different than the one today. I'd like to analyze the ways that we could really achieve this 20,000 megawatts. There are only 5 countries which have achieved this target. First, let's accept the fact that this target is really serious. Secondly, it's nice to be talking about long-term targets, but we need to compare our current performance. It's really clear that we need to install a capacity of 2,000 megawatts every year to achieve the target again. All the countries that have achieved 20,000 megawatts have their own manufacturers. They have turbine technologies. These countries include America and China. Therefore, we should ask this question as to whether the target should only be reaching a certain figure. It's not a problem to achieve the installed capacity. We have manufacturers. They would just do anything if the environment is convenient. However, even in countries with a capacity of 3 or 2,000 megawatts enjoy their own manufacturers. They have the pipeline. That's why manufacturers exist there. As manufacturers, I'm focusing on one thing. What should we do to achieve 20,000 megawatts? The related authorities of the state should create a convenient environment. But we should also create an added value, and this added value can stem from domestic production, a higher amount of domestic employment, or we can establish more factories to manufacture technologies, just like other countries which have achieved good results. We should come up with a roadmap that leads us to our target. What kind of a roadmap can it be? As a representative of a foreign company, we promote the Turkish market in Germany or in other countries as well. What we say is that there is a market here. We mentioned the 20,000 megawatts target. Retrospectively, the market will continue growing 500 megawatts per year. I'm sure that for the upcoming 5 years, it would be an amazing thing to offer a 2,000 megawatts growth every year. This also depends on the facilitated procedures. So we are the responsible contact persons of such companies. We promote the market, as I said. We talk about incentives, and we ask them to establish their factories in this country. They are more attracted to bigger markets like Brazil and China. In order to attract these kinds of investors, you at least need to come up with a projection showing a roadmap for the next 5 years. The target is very clear. Each year requires 2,000 megawatts growth in our installed capacity. If we can really achieve proper planning through financing, through hard work of our investors, and through facilitated regulatory frameworks, I really believe that turbine suppliers will take steps to localize themselves even further. The only thing that we talk is the next 5 years. This was the case for automotive industry as well. Therefore, the opportunities domestications will bring include certain projections. Existence of a sub-industry is very important here. Supply chains can at least buy their sub-assemblies from Turkey, and some sub-industries can also play as main players in the industry. This is how we can really increase our value chain. Let's not look at the issue as the most important renewable energy. However, in terms of equipment, it makes more sense to reduce our dependency on foreign countries, foreign manufacturers. As turbine manufacturers, we really believe that an increased added value will really help us. We can even use Turkey as a hub in terms of supplying the domestically produced equipment. Everyone is aware of the potential in Turkey. Even suppliers agree with us. 3 or 5 years ago, suppliers were very conservative. In terms of engineering, they are taking more robust steps right now. Suppliers are also investing in Turkey. They will continue to do so. Of course, we need to increase the amount of investment, but the way is to be able to offer a 5-year projection. Thank you very much. Many thanks to Hakan Bey for his evaluations as a manufacturer. Turkey is lucrative in terms of investments. It seems that he is really right. There are other countries in the world which have more power, but our target is to rank among them. I'd like to emphasize my belief that other investors will start thinking like Siemens. Now we can receive your questions.
Soru cevap kısmına geçmek istiyoruz. Burada kim yardımcı oluyor arkadaşlar? Tamam. Evet. Herhalde ilk önce siz karşılaştınız.
Erdal Kemeroğlu. I'm talking as a potential investor. We have a capacity problem in terms of wind turbines. We are curious about your capacity announcements because this is the key. What do you think about this process? Because you have a stock that cannot be implemented. However, for growth we need a capacity increase of 2,000 or 3,000 megawatts. I am wondering what you're going to announce per annum. We are really talking in vain if you're just going to announce 500 megawatts per annum. What do you think? Everyone is wondering the reply. We were ready to announce higher megawatts. We are going to evaluate a 12,000 megawatts. We are aiming to announce 3,000 megawatts, especially within the next month. In case of increased capacities, we will also go through our revisions, and at the increased capacities we can increase the announcement amounts up to 3,500 megawatts. This is how we are going to move forward. Therefore, after 2018 we will be more realistic towards 2023 targets. Of course, investors are expected to move faster, expecting them to achieve a capacity of 1,500 megawatts. We can even announce up to 25,000 megawatts, depending on the speed of our investors. But regulations will really facilitate the way forward. We will see. We will wait and see together. The law is a seriously heavy one. That's why we had to intervene into the law. It was a last-minute intervention. We didn't want to throw the baby with bathwater. I have a good familiarity with investors, and I know most of them really deserve licenses. That's why I didn't want to waste them either. With the 100 applications that were made. If it hadn't been for my intervention, even the power plants which are already operating would have to get back to the pre-license applications. Can you imagine such a thing? Or imagine a power plant whose construction is just about to be completed. All these would have to get back to pre-license applications. Just due to the last part of the puzzle, they would now be going back to the entire procedure. They would be starting over and over again. But thanks to the new regulation and law, the period given is 6 months. There are also investors who are patronizing a lot and who get to ask like premium quality conditions instead of a tower for wind turbines. There's a chaotic environment over already agreed prices and unit prices. Private sector moves more rapidly. That's why I like it, because it has a laissez-faire approach thanks to the tenders and other activities, but the public sector always gets to ask unnecessary questions. Anyway, let me keep it short. Investors now are given a 6-month period. there are some unlicensed projects and their compliance is still being evaluated. They were unable to receive a license because they are still dealing with an environmental impact assessment. However, such a 6-month period is really a simple solution. In the past, only the projects which were approved by the board decision got to enjoy licenses, but now a board decision is not required. In the past, I used to know each articles of the law by heart, but now I'm not just sure, but investors are really being protected now. A 6-month period will be valid. The law is heavy, but the regulation is more flexible to open up the way for the market. If the investors can really comply with the standards in the regulation, it will be really easy for them to receive licenses and to implement their projects.
Çünkü o lisans yönetmeni içinde 6 tane yönetmenlik birleşti. Dolayısıyla şimdi ezberimde değil. O maddelerde şu var. 6 aylık süreyi
cancellation is not a solution anyway. Imagine me cancelling a hydraulic power plant project. I know that if this project is given a period of 2 or 3 years, it can really be implemented. But when I cancel it straight away, these projects are really wasted for no reason because they can only apply again in 10 years or something. The General Directorate for Hydraulic Works is not even carrying out projects itself. That's why we need to protect investors. We are responsible for the regulations. I don't think investors should be intimidated anymore. This is what I believe in it. But I will have to comply with this law. One more thing. It's impossible to achieve a target of 1,000, 2,000 megawatts per year. We took some steps for hydroelectric power plants in 2006, and we worked on wind power plants in 2011. You can't expect the licensed projects to be implemented straight away. You will need to wait at least 4 or 5 years. That's why we are planning to announce higher capacities at least after 2018. I told you this example of a marathon. There will be project owners who will lag behind in the marathon. Some projects are not just carried away due to some hurdles. We need to take into account the projects that were cancelled all over Turkey, including Istanbul, Izmir and Çanakkale. We should really take these things into account so that we don't get to waste good opportunities. Of course, wind projects can be licensed, but at least in an area that you're planning to work on, there should be some existing infrastructure so that your project doesn't get cancelled for no reason, at least due to the permission procedures of other authorities. If investments are not made into infrastructure, electrical transmission company will not necessarily announce higher capacities because it has limits too. each country has such a limit. We are happy to exceed the limit, but only under convenient conditions. Just we are putting ourselves in your shoes, but we'd like to see vice versa. In order to increase our generation capacity, we need to see our consumption capacity increasing as well. We can only generate if we consume. We should all support the growth of the industry together.
Aşmaya da devam ederiz. Ama böyle de bir sıkıntımız olduğunu mutlaka bile bizim tarafımızda. Biz hep sizin yerinize koyuyoruz kendimizi ama sizler lütfen bizim yerimize bazen koyuyoruz. Teşekkür ederim.
Ahmet Bey uzun açıklama için teşekkür ediyoruz. Tabii sadece üretim kapasitesinin artması, doğalgaz, nükleer, kömür santralından yetmez. Tüketimin de artması gerekiyor. Yani elektriğin bir özelliği tüketirsen üretebilirsin. Yani çekersen gelir, değilse gelmez. Onun için ülkenin gelişmesini hep beraber desteklememiz gerekiyor.
There are lots of questions.
Ama Nezir sen bizdensin ya.
Let's give the word to Zeki Bey because he was already standing up.
Çok ısrarcı ol, ayağa da kalktı.
Zeki Eriş, General Manager for Polat Enerji. First of all, this has been an amazing panel. It's really great to be listening to the specialists of the field. According to the law, according to the related article of the law, I understand that TWEC will have to announce a capacity which is even valid until 2018. By the numbers, the 5-year and 10-year capacity, this is what I understand. But when I look at my calculations, we have only 11,000 megawatts. We can only increase by 1,000 megawatts per annum. After our application, we will continue our measures for 2 years. The capacities of licensed projects which are not implemented within 4 years will also be revealed. Therefore, in order to avoid any waste of time, I think a system should be created in a way to add capacities, these capacities that come from these cancelled projects as well. Investors are waiting for tenders.
Dolayısıyla zaman kaybetmemek adına, attığımız taş, ürküttüğümüz kurbanaya değsin adına bu 5000 megawattın üzerine bu arkadan gelen iptallerin de ekleneceği bir sistemin oluşması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. Çünkü şu anda sadece daha yönetmelik çıkmadan 230 tane ölçüm direği şu anda sahada dikilmiş bekliyor. Yani bu ihaleleri bekliyor yatırımcılar. Şimdi eğer 2000-3000 dediniz mi, dönelim 1 Kasım'a bakalım. İşte gene İbrahim Bey'in slaytlarında gördük. Yarısından fazlası afaki uçuk rakamları. Şimdi bu 3000 megawatt'a da böyle afaki uçuk rakamlar geldiğini düşünüyorum.
What is the question in general?
Kapasiteyle ilgili
I think this method about capacity announcements should be improved. Do you agree with me? The second question is for investors. Do you think this new license regulation will eliminate unnecessary project owners? Because I haven't seen a reflection of this on the regulation. I already told that cancelled capacities are still included within the calculations. The capacities, these kinds of capacities will be distributed among the existing or realistic project owners. It is quite obvious. Maybe Ahmet Bey has a few words to in order to avoid unrealistic project owners, I don't think they can find ways to steal the licenses. I thought you'd only come up with questions, but you just started giving us a lesson. Anyway, thank you very much. Capacity increases will be given to those who are really ready with their projects, from the construction to the implementation.
Kesinlikle altyapısı her şey hazır. En hızlı devreye girecek şey. Kardeşim ben 5 yıl 10 yıl beklemeyeceğim. Bu yerde kaynağın 1 dakika bile öne girmesi benim için elzem arkadaş. Ülkemin menfaatine. O halde ben bu kapasite artışlarını her zaman verebilmeliyim ki bu açık kapasite zaten size kapasite artışı olarak da geri döndür. İkincisi, o kanunun o maddesi kardeşim 5 ve 10 yıllık bir projeksiyon için.
I will of course provide the project owners with the increased capacities. Don't worry about that. Secondly, the related article of the law relating to the capacity announcements only aims predictability and to remove uncertainty. This applies to all other power plants. Let's have a look at the other articles of the law. Thanks to the related articles, all the uncancelled capacities will be determined, even in terms of wind and solar capacities. This is why we are talking based on winds. So with each application, I will take into account these capacities and cancelled capacities. The question is whether we can achieve the target of 2023 with an additional capacity of 3,000 megawatts per year. We need to increase consumption, and there are other factors. It depends on many other factors. It's impossible for us to reach that target with the current level of consumption. Without alternative technologies, this target doesn't look realistic. But this is only a target. We might take some measures. We can provide some opportunities to other investments with some tenders. Cheaper alternatives can be included in the competition. However, there might be some situations we cannot foresee, like an economic crisis. We will definitely take measures against that. But for us to achieve that target, we should first achieve a pre-target of installed capacity. Thank you. Investors will just continue sharing their problems with us. This is how we can take meaningful steps. A reserve should be employed in compliance with all the standards in a way to avoid any damages on the environment. Even the inverter and converter mechanisms of wind turbines should be in compliance with certain standards. But our dependency on the speed of the wind will again create some unpredictable conditions. But we see these conditions, situations we can eliminate. We can also increase our reserves. We can adjust the prices of the market depending on fluctuations. In the absence of desired amount of wind, the prices will be increased accordingly. We do our best, and we are willing to do our best for what is needed for the future of Turkey, the future of wind and industry. We are all aware that the increase in consumption and the increase in the use of conventional energies will lead to an increase in the rate, in the share of renewables. One more question.
Elektrik mühendisi Murat Onuk ben.
I'm electrical engineering. I'm an independent consultant, especially for wind energy. Turkey has now receiving investments of 5,000 megawatts, thanks to the significant share of foreign investments. Without foreign investments, it's really very difficult for us to achieve the target. Foreign investors seek for reliability and predictability. Let's just refresh our memories. Turkey's current installed capacity could be 5,000 megawatts. There were many licensed projects which were approved, but these project owners were unable to receive their licenses. I mean, I'm talking about the projects which received approvals from EMRA, but which were waiting for concrete licenses. However, with this regulation and law, some really promising projects with high capacities had to be dragged into a pre-license procedure. The first question is why it happened that way. We had to fight for some really promising projects invested by major players like Gamma or Borusan in front of the court. These players then joined some tenders, but due to some exaggerated numbers, they had to lose these tenders. But they were implementable projects. Is there a guarantee that we're not going to experience such unpredictable situations? Yes, there were some applications that we were unable to complete. I talked about a competition that we provided for with this law. The aim of this competition was to earn these kinds of projects. But lucky of us, we cancelled some licenses. Otherwise, we would be imprisoned right now. We are now blamed for not seeking for public benefit, for state's benefits. We did our best to protect the project owners. Security letters do not necessarily guarantee the income into an economy. It's just a guarantee showing that the project will be implemented. According to the regulation, we had to invalidate these kinds of projects. The law asked us to just cancel without listening to any justification. According to the law, there is no reason why a project is not implemented comparing to the projects that are implemented. Thanks to the law, these projects which look impossible to implement will now have an opportunity to continue with their activities or to justify themselves. Law changes, regulation changes, but you're always expected to comply with them. In the past, the project owner with a couple of projects even had the disadvantage of being prohibited from carrying out activities if one of his projects got to be cancelled somewhere. However, Turkey is also a party in international arbitration procedures. This is how they can refer their case to the court. This country is a country that has the rule of law. That's how their rights are protected. All these project owners refer to the court and they were all rejected. In order to avoid any loss of rights, we came up with this idea of competition. Thank you very much. TWEC does not approach the situation as an administrative authority, but there are a lot of arguments and criticisms, which is a problem for this country. He is even ready to be punished just for the sake of the country. Auditors or inspectors are required to properly carry out their activities with an awareness and with a competency.
İbrahim Bey size vereceğim. En son size vereceğim sözü.
Here are some fellow inspectors, all of whom are engineers. It's very good that they also attend this meeting. This is how they can understand not to fall into mistakes. Ayhan Kök, I'm a general manager. Now that we're talking about justice and fairness, I have a question, and I have a question to two of you. Before joining a competition or paying the license fee, you're not allowed to attempt to even open up a project for a conventional power plant. I'm wondering if wind equipment manufacturers are disturbed by the fact that they are subjected to competition. I'd like to say a few words because we are organizing the competition. We are not charging any fees for technical applications which are not subject to a competition. Competition's aim is to avoid any fight between you guys. TWEC was somehow a partner of the investors' generation per hour by kilowatts. This wasn't a fair treatment. Now the only fee will be charged once per megawatt.
Yani yarışmaya uygun olarak megawatt başına bir defa verilecek bir bedelden sonra o hak ebedi sizin olmuş olacak. Ben bu kadar da yetiniyorum ama
in the past, we carried out the tenders for the General Directorate of Hydraulic Works. We conducted 21 tenders. 19 were validated after the publishing of the law. And I remember charging 220 million Turkish lira. I don't know the foreign currency right now. There was a tender and one bidder had to pay 200 million Turkish lira. And they wanted to pay it in installments by 15 million Turkish lira.
Ayrı bir mesele var. O 10 megawatt veya 15 megawattlık santral belki 40 megawattlık bir hidrolik santralde şeyini üretir. Çünkü 8.000-9.000 saat çalışan bir santral.
I also remember a power plant with a capacity of 10 megawatts had to pay $25 million. I was first shocked and I understood that sometimes the electricity generated by such a wind plant equals to the energy generated by a hydraulic power plant. I mean, it really had a huge capacity and performance. We are not after competition. We are just after seeing our natural resources being exploited, being used as fast as possible. That's why I'm saying who pays in cash will get the competition, will win it. Technical projects can be licensed as much as they want. It's fine. I mean, individual projects, individual technical projects can get licenses, but none of these kinds of projects were implemented in the end. But the projects which were subjected to fees will be implemented. Do you know why? Because they will be generating more. This is something up to the investors, but please rest assured that we are not after competitions. As the ministry and as the regulatory authority, this aims to avoid any kind of squabble between competitors. There are some investors giving up periods like 20 years. That's why I prefer to see competitors trying to do their best. Thank you very much.